Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Todd Talk, a presentation of Oklahoma Baptist University's Department of Athletics of Communication. Today, we wrap up our tour of spring sports, and we talk OBU women's lacrosse with head coach Mereta Newpower. And, Coach, thanks so much for taking time out and visiting with us here on Todd Talk.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad to talk with y'all about the upcoming year and everything that we have going on.
Have you pulled all of your hair out yet, trying to figure out what's going to happen if anything happens in the spring? I mean, fortunately for your sport, you still have a little bit more time before you have to worry about cancellations and postponements and such.
Yeah, definitely. This last year with our season getting canceled before we even got any conference games in, I'm just hoping and praying, but I'm pretty sure my hair is going to start turning gray pretty soon with just everything going on. But yeah, we're just really hoping that, everything can go ahead as normal in the spring, but, we're just waiting and seeing for sure.
Okay, Mereta, I want to talk to you a little bit about yourself first. You actually are very familiar to lacrosse fans at OBU. You spent 1 year back in 2015, won 11 games as head coach on Bison Hill. From that time until you assumed the mantle again back in January of this year, what have you been doing with yourself?
Yeah, so I actually lived in Houston, Texas, the last 4 years. I was coaching for a club and a high school there. And then my family, we moved back here in 2019, and I was an elementary teacher at a school in Shawnee. And then, this job came available in January, and that's kind of been where we have been since.
Do you almost feel like that the timing was maybe a God thing in you moving back from Houston and being available to take the reins on such short notice?
Oh, for sure. I mean, my husband and I, we talk about it all the time, just from that first, first finding out that the job was available. It's just a complete God thing that we were here and that God brought us back here at the perfect time. And, that allowed me to have a job with the school that was just so flexible and able to make that work. It was just unbelievable. I can't believe the work that, God just had in his hand in that, for sure.
Coach, was there any hesitation on your part whatsoever at short notice to sign back up for a second stint as the head coach?
As soon as I knew, I called my husband and I said, this is it. And he said, well, yeah, I mean, you're going to do it. And I was like, well, of course. I mean, I have to. I was teaching fourth grade. And so that was one thing that I just wanted to be able to make sure I could, live out what I was doing for them too. And both sides of it. I mean, we're just so great on letting me be able to finish both things out the best way that I possibly could. But no, when I found out, I knew that this was the one thing that I had no doubt in my mind that I was meant to be able to do. And I always wanted to be able to do it again. So it was just perfect timing. And there was not much hesitation at all.
I'll tell you what, your career has been about change. I mean, in 2015, the program was still very young at Oklahoma Baptist. You were not yet Division II. You moved to another state. You take on another career. You come back home. You're teaching fourth graders, which certainly is a much, much different role than what you're doing now as directing a Division II lacrosse program.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I originally, when I first went to college, I was at College of the Ozarks playing volleyball. And then I ended up here with playing lacrosse when it first got started. And, so yeah, there's tons of change. But it's something that I thrive with, and that I thrive with the challenge. And this is what it's been. And, everything that since I got the job in January, there's been a lot of challenges, starting a program, having the program. And, we had a game a week later after I took it over, and that's a challenge, but that is so exciting. And, continuing with everything that's happened with COVID and, now being back here, it's challenging and there's a lot of change going on, but it is very exciting. And it's something that I am just so excited to be back with the team and have our girls back here so we can get back to work.
Mereta Newpower, the second stint head coach of OBU Lacrosse, is our guest on this week's edition of Todd Talk. Okay, I have to ask you, curious minds want to know, how do you go from a volleyball career as a player to playing lacrosse and eventually coaching?
Well, Growing up in Wisconsin, I mainly played volleyball. We didn't have much lacrosse. There was only really boys options. So I played with the boys, which is very different than girls lacrosse. And then at College of the Ozarks, I was playing volleyball, and my sister being here, I was, just yearning for family and for the community and to grow my faith. And this at OBU, they were starting the lacrosse program, and it just kind of all fell into place with it starting here, and it just fell into a great place that I was able to come here and to be able to get the degree that I wanted in kinesiology, because they had that here. So it was just, everything just fell into place, and that way I was able to come here and do lacrosse.
I have to ask you, is OBU in a situation where its lacrosse coach is a better volleyball player than its volleyball coach?
Oh boy.
I dare you to answer that.
I don't know about that. Every now and then I'll play with them, but it's been some years. My jumping is not what it used to be, so I have to say that. But I'm sure we could also get the volleyball coach out to the lacrosse field, and she would be pretty competitive, I'm sure.
Okay, let's talk about how this program has changed from 2015 to January of 2020. The biggest change has been you're no longer in the NWLL. You're in one of the best lacrosse conferences in the country, in the RMAC. What has been the biggest change for you in such a short period of time, acclimating to the difference in the program from your first stint?
Yeah, I mean, even the rules of the game have changed. In 2015, every time a whistle blew, everyone had to stop where they were in the field. And you weren't allowed any movement. And, that's not something that we have anymore. When the whistle blows, you can still have free movement, which that is a huge change, because that was not how it was when I played. So, that just a lot of it has really, really changed. I think the biggest change that I have seen, and even with our team here, is the pace of the game is just so fast. And coming from the high school to this, that's been a really big change, but it's been very exciting. The competition is just awesome, and the caliber of who we get to play is just so great. And that's been the biggest change, is just the pace of the game is so much faster.
All right, your predecessor, Jordan Beach, who I think the world of, and I'm sure you do as well, really left the program in pretty good shape, because the schedule was already made, and there's an outstanding freshman class that was on campus last spring. I know that you are very, very high on that group of girls as being a foundation going forward in the future.
Yes, for sure. I mean, he did an amazing job recruiting. I mean, I've been really set up for success with that, and I can't thank him enough for that. And even, the new incoming class that he put a lot of work into that are on campus this fall. I mean, we have a great group of girls that are coming on, that I'm just so lucky, and we're so lucky to have on our team. And, our freshman last year, we had Carlin York, who just was a standout for us. And she got her season cut short, but man, she was doing amazing things, and she's going to continue that. And I'm just really excited about that. But yeah, he left it, from the recruiting standpoint, we are in a great position for that. And that was all him, and that's awesome.
I want to expand a little bit more on York, because as a freshman from Sacramento, California, she comes halfway across the country, is a completely different element. Yet she really excelled. She was number one in goals, number one in assists, and number one on shots. I mean, that's pretty impressive in 5 games in an entirely new environment.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, she came, and we really worked on making her, we tried her out at a few different positions, and we found, after about the first and second game, that she kind of was really our quarterback, and she could really develop, and she could run the field. And even though she was a freshman, I really encouraged her to take that role, and take the role of being that quarterback down there, and to make things happen. And she embraced it. And yeah, I mean, she came alive, and, with her, the assist, she was able to connect with her teammates. I mean, at the end, her and one of our upcoming juniors, Shay, they were able to just really, really connect. And it's a huge change from Sacramento to Shawnee, but she's made some great friendships, and she just really, really came alive for us. And she's going to continue that for sure.
Okay, you take over for Jordan in January, a couple of months later, with basically a new roster. You've had to get yourself acclimated to your players, and then all of a sudden get ready for a challenging schedule. You got off to a great start. You hammered the University of Oklahoma's club team in an exhibition. I think it was a little disappointment, though, going forward of those 5 shortened games, wasn't it? Because I think there were some games on that schedule early you thought you really probably should have won.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, there were some games, especially when we were up in Illinois, that we look back and we learned a lot. And it was just so sad when it ended, because that last game that we played, we had turned a corner. The night before, we had a great team meeting. We had really talked about what we wanted our team to look like, what we wanted our program and our legacy, and, what just we wanted to surround us. And we were turning that corner and developing all of that. And it just, it got taken away, which we saw, but we learned so much from those games. And yes, they were not all the outcomes that we were hoping for and that we needed to have and we should have, but it was amazing motivation. And I think it's going to be amazing motivation for us going forward. We were really lighting that fire as a team and individually. And I think that's going to really motivate our returners for coming back this year.
Mereta Newpower, the lacrosse coach at Oklahoma Baptist, is our guest here on this episode of Todd Talk. In adversity, you find out a lot more about athletes' character sometimes than you do when the waters are smooth. You only had 5 games with them, and it was a young team that you didn't recruit, that you didn't have a lot of time to grow with. Them know you, you know them. But do you really feel good about, in the short term, the character that you guys were able to establish with that class?
Oh, yes. I mean, we were only together about a month before, from when I took over to when everything started shutting down. But that month was filled with an impeccable amount of growth. Growth among the team. They were developing relationships with each other that they hadn't had. And, they were really coming down to loving it. And I could see from, the last game that we played and, right before everything, that they just would go out there and they would have fun and they would have fire within them and as a team. And so there was adversity for sure. But learning to lose together, that really developed them. And yeah, they did great with the adversity. And I think it has really, really helped them.
Okay. Is it easier, or do you think it will be easier to recruit now that you are affiliated with NCAA, regardless of wins or losses, as opposed to what it was your first stint?
Yeah. When we were competing in the NWLL, it was definitely a little more difficult. And now that we're in the NCAA and we're in the Rocky Mountain Conference, I mean, that's such a great conference for us to be in. And people, they know who we are, and we are playing we have amazing competition. And so that's definitely going to benefit us recruiting going forward, because they're going to get to play great teams. And I think it'll definitely, and it has been so far, been a definite benefit being in NCAA.
It's a benefit to be affiliated with the NCAA. Is it a challenge because you are not a niche sport in Oklahoma? I mean, you're in a state where lacrosse is not real big. Or is that a strength in the recruiting process? You can come and be part of a young program and help build something special going forward.
Yeah, I think that it kind of goes both ways with that. It's definitely growing in Oklahoma. And, when I was here before, there was maybe a little bit of a club team out of Edmond, but that was really about it. But now that, it's really, really growing. And so that's awesome to have those, we have more people that are going to come to our games and be able to recruit from there. But yeah, I mean, the people, like this year, we have some girls from all over the country that are coming in, and they get to come and they get to be a part of something special, because it is growing in Oklahoma, that we are the big place here for girls lacrosse and for women's lacrosse that these girls look up to, and they get to be a part of that. And it really makes them know, and our girls know, that you're a part of something special here. And so I think it definitely, it has its benefits, and it's also a little difficult just because you don't have, every high school doesn't have a lacrosse team here.
Every move-in week or day is different because of the students. Was this maybe, and I know you haven't coached a long time, but was this maybe the most special move-in week for you? I mean, with the student athletes, now you get a chance to be around the full year, and you only had such a shortened period of time together in the spring.
Yes, it just warms my heart, and it just makes me so happy to have, to have everyone on campus. And, I went here, so I know what OBU can do for you. I mean, it completely changed my life when I was a student here. And so getting to have them move in and, having them come to my office and being able to meet the parents and just have my returners come back and just see them so happy to be here. And I have so many of my returners just saying that, this is home for them, and they're coming home, and they're so happy to be home. And it fills my heart. I have so much joy that they're back here and that we get to be together. And yeah, I mean, it's been so special since the long break that we've had, just to have them back here and to see the joy in their hearts to be back with their team and back on campus.
All right, last question for you. What's the plans going forward? Because even as we sit and talk, we don't know the status exactly of the fall sports and maybe on even affecting the spring seasons. How do you approach that right now with your squad?
Yeah, so, I am all about flexibility and telling my girls that you have to be flexible. And we're going to go with our loose plan of hopefully, getting to do stuff in the fall and have our fall ball, which is a lot of team development, team bonding. And, we have to hope and pray for the best and keep safety in mind with that. So I'm just letting them know we got to be flexible, and we have to continue to pray and hope for the best.
Man, I've enjoyed our visit. You are an outstanding guest. You're full of energy. You're full of positivity. Man, during these times, that is something that we certainly all cherish. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Mereta Newpower, the OBU lacrosse coach, has been our guest on this week's episode of Todd Talk. If you've missed any of the previous episodes, visit Oklahoma Baptist University Athletics YouTube page, and you can see any of the past episodes as well. Until next time, I'm Todd Miller. You've been watching an episode of Todd Talk.